If you're wondering which units are actually worth investing in after update 1.5, you've come to the right place. In this video, we're ranking every single Anime Squadron unit based on the 4 roles that matter the most: DPS, support, tank, and farm. Whether you're trying to build the strongest team for endgame content, or you're just looking for the best units to carry your early progress, we've got you covered. But this isn't just another tier list. Along the way, I'll also share plenty of useful tips, explain why certain units deserve their rankings, and go over a farming guide to help you level up your account much faster. Plus, all of the new update 1.5 units have been added, so everything you're about to see is fully up to date. Let's jump right into the rankings and find out which units are dominating the meta. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking units in Anime Squadron. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Goki SSJ4 full power, Vegata SSJ4 full power, Casca Resilience, Karashi Sharingan, and Rizuta to Sage. You know a tier is getting interesting when the units aren't completely broken, but they still keep finding ways to sneak onto your team. That's exactly what the C tier is all about. These characters might not dominate every leaderboard, but each one brings something valuable to the table, whether it's solid damage, useful support, or simply making your grind a whole lot easier. Let's kick things off with Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goki and Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Vegata. Goki is the stronger damage dealer between the two, making him a respectable secondary meta damage per second unit if you need extra firepower. Vegata isn't far behind either, offering perfectly decent damage throughout the mid-game, but if we're being honest, the biggest reason you'll want both of them isn't their personal performance. They're essential if you want to unlock Go-meter, so even if they aren't carrying every stage on their own, they're still incredibly important pieces of your overall progression. Then we have Casca with the Resilience trait, and she's much more interesting than her damage numbers might suggest. Her biggest strength comes from amplifying your team's damage while also boosting Berserker and Falcon, making her an excellent support choice. Pair her together with Berserker, and things get even more fun because Berserker also increases Casca's damage. The only catch is that this extra damage only works while enemies are above 60% health points, so you'll get the most value early in each fight. She's definitely one of those units that performs much better when the rest of your team is built around her. Finally, let's talk about Karashi with the Sharingan trait and Rizuto with the Sage trait. Karashi doesn't compete with the stronger damage per second units in raw numbers, but he more than makes up for it by being fantastic for farming resources across several game modes. He's also an excellent filler pick for late game teams, so he stays useful long after you obtain him. Rizuto, meanwhile, is a perfectly respectable secondary damage per second option during the mid game and can help you clear plenty of content. The problem is that his scaling falls behind later on, and unlike Karashi, he doesn't have a unique role that keeps him relevant. So if you're deciding where to spend your resources, Karashi will usually reward that investment much more in the long run. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Puppeteer Transcendent, Android Super, Medora Gunbai, Skeleton Knight Resonance, Falcon Dark, and Shanron Omega. The B tier is where things start getting seriously difficult to rank because every unit here has a strong argument for moving even higher. None of them completely dominate the meta, but they all have something that makes you stop and think, maybe this deserves a permanent spot on my team. Depending on your playstyle, you could honestly build an entire lineup from this tier and still clear a huge amount of content. Let's start with Puppeteer using the Transcendent trait. If you've ever wanted a version of Go-meter that's a little weaker offensively, but much harder to take down, this is basically it. Thanks to constant healing, Puppeteer is incredibly tanky while still dealing impressive damage per second. On top of that, he stacks plenty of self buffs and even applies a debuff that's focused entirely on increasing damage rather than providing utility. That's exactly why he isn't treated as a traditional support unit. The best part is that you don't have to rely on luck forever because you can farm everything needed to unlock him through the Katakara Bridge challenge on both normal and hard difficulty. Next up is Super Android and Medora with the Gunbai trait. Super Android is a solid secondary meta damage per second unit that also throws in a few stuns, giving him a little extra utility during fights. If you're already running Dante and Virgil together, he'll feel a bit weaker overall, but on his own, he's right in the same ballpark. Medora takes a completely different approach. Instead of relying on huge burst attacks, he steadily melts enemies with powerful damage over time effects. That consistent damage keeps him surprisingly close to the very best damage per second units, even if he doesn't have the flashy one-shot potential. Now let's talk about Skeleton Knight with the Resonance trait, because this unit is an absolute defensive monster. He combines reliable damage per second with easily the best tanking capabilities in the entire game. His biggest strength comes from linking him to your strongest damage per second unit, allowing that carry to survive much longer thanks to the incoming damage reduction. Sure, his personal damage falls behind the S-tier monsters, but the extra survivability he provides often ends up being worth far more than a few extra damage numbers. Falcon with the Dark trait is one of those units that somehow refuses to fit into a single category. He deals respectable damage per second, instantly executes weaker enemies to speed up wave clears, boosts your team's resistance against debuffs, and even increases the amount of yen you earn. It's almost like Falcon looked at every useful mechanic in the game and decided to collect all of them. No, he isn't a top meta damage per second carry, but you'll constantly find situations where you're happy to have him on the team. Finally, we have Shanron with the Omega trait, one of the most flexible units you can possibly own. He can deal damage, soak up hits, and provide support without being the absolute best at any single role. His Ice mode is especially valuable because it slows enemies down, making it much easier to stall difficult waves when things get chaotic. Even with all that versatility, I wouldn't rush to build him before the units we just covered. Think of Shanron as a fantastic long-term investment rather than an immediate priority, and once you finally build him, you'll quickly understand why so many players keep finding reasons to use him. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Tanjiro Sun, Breathing, Dente and Vargil, Garu Half Monster, Frieza Golden, and Wu Shadow. The A tier is where every pull starts feeling like a jackpot. These units are powerful enough to carry difficult content, flexible enough to fit into a wide variety of teams, and in some cases, they're only a tiny step away from true meta status. If you're building toward the endgame, this is the group you'll probably spend the most time using. Let's begin with Tanjiro using the Sun Breathing style. On his own, he's already a strong secondary meta damage per second unit that specializes in finishing off weakened enemies. Once opponents drop below 50% health points and then below 25%, Tanjiro gains powerful self-buffs that let him clean up battles incredibly fast. Pair him with Nazaka though, and things become much more exciting. Their abilities work together through dual buffs, creating one of the strongest synergies available for players who want to maximize Tanjiro's damage output. Next up is the duo of Dente and Vargil, and these two are the definition of better together. Separately, Dente is a fairly average damage per second unit, while Vargil provides solid stun-based support. Put them on the same team, however, and their devilish combo ability completely changes the story. Together, they become a powerful secondary meta damage per second duo, creating devastating storms that deal heavy damage while applying excellent debuffs. If your goal is pure damage, always run both of them together. Otherwise, Vargil still offers enough support value to justify bringing him by himself. Garu in his half monster form is one of the most complete units in the entire game. You can unlock him through the Hero Hunter challenge, and he's worth every bit of effort. Much like Shanron, Garu fills multiple roles at once, but he performs each of them at a much higher level. His damage ramps up quickly once you stack status effects and apply marked to enemies. He's also surprisingly durable thanks to his ability to ignore lethal hits, which not only keeps him alive but also boosts his own damage per second even further. On top of all that, he strengthens allied units by providing defense buffs and increasing the damage of teammates that inflict corruption on enemies marked by Garu. Rounding out the tier are Golden Frieza and Wu with the Shadow trait. Frieza is one of the more unique meta damage per second units because his entire playstyle revolves around defeating enemies to generate summons while covering the battlefield with an area that deals massive area of effect damage. Those summoned units explode for even more damage, and if he has at least 3 summons active, he can even revive himself, making him surprisingly difficult to eliminate. Wu, meanwhile, is a secret banner unit with a 20,000 summons pity requirement, and he's absolutely built for speed. His summoned allies, powerful area of effect nuke, and respectable survivability through dodge chance make him an outstanding choice for farming and clearing stages as quickly as possible. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Akosa Demon, Gomita Blue, Bralu Legendary. Legendary, Berserker Enraged, Baras Meteoric Burst, Gameta SSJ4, and Rangaku Demon. Now we're finally in the S tier, and this is where the real monsters live. These are the units that completely change how you approach the game. If one of these shows up in your inventory, congratulations, you've just made your future progression a whole lot easier. Every single unit here is capable of carrying difficult content, and in many cases, they're the benchmark that every other damage per second unit is compared against. Let's start with Demon Akoza, one of the most terrifying boss killers in Anime Squadron. The key to using him properly is keeping at least one Akoza actively fighting at all times, because they continuously gain enormous damage buffs while they're in combat. His entire kit revolves around stacking poison, and once battle excitement reaches maximum stacks, that poison absolutely melts both health points and shields. He's also far tougher than most pure damage per second units, thanks to his ability to revive after reaching maximum battle excitement. There's even a strong argument for running the cloner trait instead of superior on Akoza, since every self-revive creates additional Akozas, leading to even more damage on the battlefield. Next up are Blue Gameta and Legendary Bralu, two incredible units that often spark debates over which one is actually better. Blue Gameta becomes stronger the longer a fight lasts by continuously stacking massive buffs while focusing all of his attacks on the same target, making him an elite boss killer. His ultimate ability is also devastating enough to stay relevant in shorter game modes. As a leader, he boosts dragon units by 30% damage and water units by 10% damage. Bralu, on the other hand, is much easier to obtain, and that accessibility combined with outstanding damage and survivability makes him the better overall choice for many players. A huge portion of his power comes from thorns and damage amplification whenever enemies attack him, allowing him to function as both a devastating damage per second unit and an exceptional tank. Stack Rage, throw him into the middle of the fight, and his crowd control immunity and defensive buffs will keep him standing. His leader ability increases antagonist unit damage by 30% and nature unit damage by 10%. Berserker with the Enraged trait absolutely deserves his place among the best of the best. You can obtain him from Squadron Eclipse before Chapter 4, and once he's on your roster, you'll immediately understand the hype. His bleed damage over time is among the strongest in the game and even reduces enemy regeneration, making him incredibly effective against difficult bosses. The lower his own health points become, the more damage he deals, which creates a fun high-risk, high-reward playstyle. Pairing him with Skeleton Knight is an amazing strategy because Skeleton Knight helps keep Berserker alive while he's sitting at dangerously low health points. Add in Berserker's own self-healing and he becomes surprisingly difficult to eliminate. Meteoric Burst, Baras is another unit built specifically to destroy bosses as quickly as possible. You evolve him from the new event version of Baras, and every attack against the same target stacks more buffs, causing his damage to climb higher and higher throughout the fight. He also comes equipped with multiple self-revives, and each revival pushes his damage even further. That combination makes him incredibly reliable during long encounters and firmly establishes him as one of the premier meta damage per second units available. Of course, no S-tier discussion would be complete without Super Saiyan 4 Gometa. To unlock him, you'll first need to evolve Goki into full power, complete the required questline, and gather the primal core materials for Gometa's evolution. One nice bonus is that Goki's trait carries over, making the investment even more worthwhile. Once fully built, Super Saiyan 4 Gometa becomes one of the strongest damage per second units in the entire game thanks to his enormous self-stacking buffs. He's not just about offense either. His high defense, constant health point regeneration, and dodge chance allow him to survive surprisingly well even in late game content. If you're wondering which evolution path to prioritize, this one should be near the top of your list. As a leader, he grants 30% more damage to protagonist units and 10% more damage to divine units. Finally, we have Demon Rangaku, another elite meta damage person unit that approaches combat differently from everyone else in this tier. Instead of relying on traditional sustained damage over time effects, Rangaku builds explosive damage over time stacks that detonate for massive area of effect burst damage. That unique mechanic allows him to wipe out groups of enemies while still dealing incredible damage to tougher targets. It's a fitting way to end the S tier because every unit here represents the absolute peak of Anime Squadron, and if you manage to build a team around even a couple of them, you'll be prepared for just about every challenge the game has to offer. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.